Hello, this is my 1939 Aeronca Chief that I have for sale. I want to make a short video. There's some things that pictures and auction description and all that, it's just better to make a video sometimes. It's just easier that way. This is a 39 pre-war model Chief with the 65 horse Lycoming engine in it. Original to the type certificate, so I left it that way. It was restored in 2000. I think the restoration was completed in 2007. I purchased it in 2008. It was restored by a gentleman in Oregon, and then a mechanic purchased it up in Detroit, and I purchased the airplane from him. I've got all the records on the aircraft all the way back to 1939. I've got the FAA disc, and I've got some of the original paperwork as well, and then the logbooks on the engine and airframe all the way back to I believe the early 50s is when they started that, versus the forms that they mailed into the CAA years ago. The only problems on the aircraft, you know, cosmetically I'd give it an 8 out of 10. There's a little bit of discoloration here and there on the paint. It was that way when I purchased it. You can kind of see it on the strut. There's a place where there's some paint missing on the strut here, and there's a little bit of discoloration in the paint here and there. I'm not exactly sure what caused that. I purchased the wheel pants. They're metal, all metal Aeronca wheel pants. Had them painted to match, and decals to match the aircraft. I had decals cut the old style that go under and over the wing on the bottom there and on the top of the other side. One of the linemen pushed the aircraft into a hose reel in the hangar over here and ripped a tiny little hole in the wing bow. We patched it up, but I haven't, and doped it, but I haven't gotten so far as to get it repainted. It never really was an issue mechanically or anything. We just wanted to patch it. On this same wing bow over here, there's a patch that was on the aircraft when I purchased it. The paint doesn't really, it's a little bit lighter color that they used, but that was on there when I purchased it. The little guides here are starting to get a little age on them, and they're peeling up just a little bit, but again, that's just cosmetic. Nothing mechanically, no mechanical issues there. Overall, it's in really good shape mechanically. It functions good. It cranks up on the second or third pull. You prime it up and she's good to go. Let's walk around here. Just want to get some good shots of the airplane. It's a 3-piece windshield. When I bought the airplane, the windshield cracked on it, and so I had Great Plains Aeroplastics make another windshield that was thicker. The mechanic had a heck of a time, but he got it in after about 2 days of wrestling with it. The prop Cincinnati 69LY, I put the logos on it, and I try to keep a little coat of lacquer on it all the time. The engine, I've battled leaks over the years. The prop seal gave me some problems, and I had it replaced a few years back. Rocker cover gaskets and pushrod tube seals at the bottom, they leak just a little bit. So if I don't see just a little oil, I get kind of concerned. But that's just the nature of the beast, I think. This Lycoming, you have to take the whole top end of the engine apart to replace the pushrod tube seals, so it was kind of a minor leak, so I wasn't too terribly concerned about that. Mechanic said it's natural. I run a little bit of I always run avgas, but I run a little bit of Marble Mystery Oil. It's got the old Champion spark plugs in it. You see there's a little bit of paint missing here and there. I try to keep it clean, keep a coat of wax on it. I think one of the wheel pants over here has a little crack in some of the sealant there, or whatever it is, finish. Again, it's nothing, just cosmetic. If we look inside the airplane, here, I've done a good bit of work in here. I had the seat cushion made. I bought it at Hank and Machinzi seat cushion. I bought an old ad from 1939 magazine, and I had the logo embroidered and stitched into the seat from the magazine ad. I thought that was just the coolest thing. The interior is in good shape. Got a little storage area back here. I've got a handheld radio. I'll probably let it go with the plane. Little knick-knack stuff. Just wrap these in duct tape, just for the purpose, because everybody grabs those when they get in, and those little poles get all kind of scratched up looking. Overhead trim, yeah, functions fine. Cables there, good. The compass, I've replaced it. It was leaking fluid and going dry. On the panel, I had a whole new panel made and powder coated. When I purchased the airplane, it had more of like a 6-pack type modern setup in it. I managed to purchase the Stuart Warner backwards turning tack from a gentleman in Australia. I believe it might have been an Aluscum or something like that, but it was about $1,000 to purchase it all torn up, and then I sent it to Lock Haven up in instrument refurbishment up in Pennsylvania. They refurbished the instrument, put the Aeronca logo on it, got everything working. It took 2 or 3 times to get the oil temperature probe to work correctly, but we eventually got it. About $2,500 later, there it goes. I got the non-sensitive Aeronca altimeter from the time period, and an Aeronca airspeed, which I believe is period as well. And then I put a little skid and slip in here so we can see what was going on. Parking brake isn't hooked up, it doesn't work. The heater works fine, throttle works fine, carb heat works good, primer works good, and the mag switch there, everything's good on those. Like I said, everything else functions other than the parking brake, which I never really hooked up. Put new brake linings, they're shin brakes, and put new brake linings in it. And, it's pretty well good to go. It's got a D-cell battery ELT. I forget what brand it is, but keep it current. I put a antenna that has a little BNC connector here. It's a spar antenna, so you can hook it up. My plan was to run it up the dash here, and I made this little thing, and I was going to cut a slot in it and put the handheld, hang the handheld in here in a holster, and then run this cable up there and all this, but I never did. I didn't even make a bracket for the other side yet, but I don't fly the airplane. I'm like 2 or 3 hours a year. I get out and crank it up and get it hot, and I'll wash it, and take it around the pattern, and take it over to the mechanic and get the annual done on it. And compressions are always good. Like I said, it's a good solid little plane. We got some scrapes on the windshield there. It slides back and forth. I believe those are available from Spruce, pretty cheap if you wanted to replace them. The tail wheel is just a standard tail wheel. I keep it greased up there. It's not pneumatic or a Scott or anything like that. So we'll look at the cockpit from this side. You get a look at it. So it cranks up on the first or second pull. It's a fun little airplane. I'll fly it in the summer with the doors off of it. I don't think there's an STC for that or anything, but these airplanes are so old, it's a lot more difficult to find that information sometimes. But I had no ill effects as pulling the pins and flying the airplane without doors on it. If you have any specific questions, feel free to shoot me a message. Maybe I can answer them for you. I know where there's another Lycoming 0145 about 30 minutes from here. An older gentleman owns it. It's pickled up in a hangar. Maybe he'd be willing to sell it if you were interested in it. I could try to forward his contact information to you. That was always kind of in the back of my mind, is if I ever had any issues with the 0145, I'd pull that one and put buy that one from him and put it on. Let's say JP Hackenberg, they sell parts. I put new motor mounts in it at the last annual. It was starting to get some vibration through the airframe, and the motor mounts were shot, and you can damage the engine mounting points if you don't keep those in top shape. So I called JP Hackenberg up in Pennsylvania, and he sent me a set of motor mounts, and mechanics struggled with that, and got them all put on, and put a little sealant around the push rod tubes bases, and then new valve cover gaskets from JP Hackenberg as well. And he has all the parts, and he owns the type certificate for the 0145. So if there's any questions about parts availability, you can contact him and he can tell you all about it. He rebuilds these engines as well. Super smooth, cranks up very easy. It's just a super smooth flying airplane. I get about 80 miles an hour at 2400 RPM, and that's probably burning in the neighborhood of 4 gallons an hour, something like that. I've got the weight and balance information. It's not a heavy hauler. See, I got all that inside the airplane here. I've got the books with all the maintenance records, but I keep this in the aircraft for legal reasons. You can see here the weight and balance there. We got empty weight at 733, and so it is light sport qualified. And 1150, so our useful load's 417, and it holds 12 gallons of fuel. Standard tanks. It doesn't have long range tanks or anything like that. I've got some contact information for different people that know about these airplanes. They use these engines in the Mooney Mite and some other aircraft that were out there way back in the day. It's museum quality airplane. Like I say, I would keep it and fly it, but I just don't have time, and I got 2 young kids, and I'm ready to let her go to a new steward. Like I said, I'm somewhat like to keep everything original. That's why I know somebody that had a A65 and metal prop and all that stuff, but then I'd have to source the cowling and everything and convert it. I don't know. I just always found this engine to be so smooth. I think it makes a little less static thrust than than the A65 did, but it's a much smoother running engine. Like I say, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a message. And thank you for watching this video. Have a nice day.